there's one setting that developers have pretty much forgotten, it's the sunny beaches and blue seas of the Caribbean islands. Pirate beat 'em ups are a rare breed, and this is something that baffles me since crossing the seven seas aboard a huge ship, sharing crackers with your parrot and scurvy with your comrades is extremely fun. Okay, maybe not the scurvy part, but anyway. Hello and welcome my friends to The Flying Kick, I am Savino and today I bring you the review of Buccaneers Shipshape, a pirate-themed beat-em-up developed by Merzo Entertainment that will be released tomorrow, July 22nd, exclusively on Steam. But before we dive into the game, let's get a bit of context here. Buccaneers Shipshape is an official remake of the game Buccaneers from 1989, a somewhat obscure game developed by the Spanish studio Dointronic. The original game was in reality a ROM hack from the classic game Vigilante, but let's talk about it a little later because the game is included in this package. Being a remake of an arcade game, Shipshape doesn't try to hide its origins. The story here is pretty simple and will be presented to you in the form of a small but very nicely done cutscene. Most of the story will be left to your imagination because all you need to know is that you and your friends found a treasure map just to have it stolen by an evil parrot who is the pet of the game's bad guy. But worse than that, the villain Captain Wintes also stole your ship and now is sailing away from you and your friends and closer to your treasure. When it comes to the visuals, Shipshape has a simplistic style, but that doesn't mean the game looks bad. In some ways it reminds me of some old computer games like The Secret of Monkey Island with its chunky pixels and somewhat limited color palette. And here is where most of the game's charm lies. The small sprites, the low resolution backgrounds, the way the character moves, everything here screams early 90s and I love that. But this simplicity is only superficial because the game has a lot of features that these old games could never have. The number of enemies on the screen, the variety of levels, and the beautiful parallax scrolling, there's a ton here to look at. The game, surprisingly, even has some superscalar levels, which are a blast to see. The animations are also similar to what we had back in the day, and while I think it could have been better, especially when it comes to the walk cycle, it does its job in selling you the strength of your characters. Your enemies could have had more variety, since you see a lot of the same enemies disguised as palette-swapped ones, but they come in so vast numbers that will be hard for you to stop and complain without having your head served on a tray. Now, what I really like here are the backgrounds, and no, it's not only because it has some awesome parallax scrolling, but also because they look alive and diverse and can be part of the gameplay, like when this ship here starts to throw cannonballs at you, or this woman mad with all the noise you're making, throwing stuff at you and your enemies. It's a pretty nice touch, and while it's not unique, it's something I would love to see in more games because usually beat-em-ups backgrounds are often just that, a background. Overall, I think the game looks pretty great, especially if you consider the developer was trying to mimic the 90s style and, for all I can see, he nailed it. And it wasn't only the graphics that were inspired by the 90s, the sounds of your attacks, the sound of the world around you, the explosions, barrels breaking, couldn't have been more fitting for what the developer was trying to achieve. It sounds like an old computer game or an early 16-bit console game with those low bit rate sounds and somewhat metallic sounding punches, which I think is great. Sure, I know this type of sound effects aren't for every ear, but if you were alive back in the 90s, and according to my YouTube demographics most of you were, there is no way you won't feel the nostalgia crawling under your skin. And there's the music. Oh boy, the music. I guess some things are better shown than talking about, so take a listen to this. This is pure chiptune goodness. The music here is fantastic, full of energy and perfectly fit in what's going on your screen. The composer DM Ledo did a superb job with the music here, and I really want to congratulate him or her. As with all the rest of the sounds and the visuals, it has a 16-bit feel to it, and I really wish the OST were available with the game, because these are tunes that I'm sure I would listen to while writing my reviews. Now let's talk about the gameplay and combat, because there's a lot to unpack here. In Shipshape you can play with one of 4 pirates: Simon, who is your all-rounder with good speed, reach and strength; Coralie, who is your nimble but weak female; Portia, who is pretty strong and has a nice reach; and finally Aldemar, who is the strongest of them all and obviously the slowest of the bunch. All of them have the same set of moves, but how they attack can vary a lot. Here you have your main attack, a jump, an assist button, and a special. You can also run, and the game gives you 2 types of attacks when running. One is your typical running attack, and the other will require you to jump before attacking, unleashing a pretty powerful move. Your special will change according to the character, and you can use it every time you fill your special bar. It's honestly a pretty generous bar, refilling itself pretty quickly, so I recommend you to use your special move often, especially when tons of enemies are around you. And you also have an assist, as I mentioned, which is a parrot that you can release from its cage that will poke the heads of your enemies, knocking them down. It's pretty fun and absurd, and I love it. The only thing I think was a missed opportunity here was your main attack. Not that they are bad, far from that, but for some reason the only character who has a unique main attack is Coralie, which is capable of hitting enemies on both sides when finishing her basic combo. Yes, it makes total sense when you consider that she's the weakest one and incapable of killing an enemy with one sequence, so she needs to knock down as many enemies as she can, but it makes her really different from the others, maybe even make her the best in the game by a long shot. Sure, all characters have an automatic back attack when the enemies are approaching, pretty similar to what we had in Turtles in Time, but hers happens all the time and can hit way more enemies. I would like to see the other characters with some special traits like Coralie, but unfortunately that was not the case. Now, one thing that I really think this game excels is the level design. While in most games, as I said before, the backgrounds are just backgrounds, here they are an integral part of the gameplay. There are a ton of levels here where the mechanics will change, and because of that, it will change the way you face the game. There is, for example, an underwater level, and as expected, the gravity is different, you get slower, and you can't throw your enemies into pits, because they are fish and fish don't fall underwater. There is also this level on the rooftops where, thanks to the pouring rain, it will make you, your enemies, and everything else slip, forcing you to keep pushing your character up to avoiding falling into the streets. And there's the aforementioned superscalar levels, which reminds me a lot of Riding Fight from Konami, that are a nice change of pace. At one level, you're paddling on a board, avoiding sharks and crazy seagulls as rocks and cannonballs come your way. In another, you will be on the top of a wagon, fighting pirates, jumping over poles, and trying to escape the wrath of the wagon's owner, who is trying to poke you with his sword. These levels are a great change of pace and something that I would love to see in more games, because it brings a new way to face old enemies. The game also offers 2 different endings, a good and a bad one, giving you an excuse to play it more than once. Buccaneers Shipshape also comes with a recreation of the original game, which you can unlock after beating the game. The game, as I said, is a ROM hack from Vigilante, and as such, it plays very similarly to it. You walk in a single plane, fighting enemies that will die with a single hit until you reach a boss. It is, at least in my opinion, not that great, but it's nice to see such an old game being recreated with such fidelity. Yes, there are some tweaks here and there to improve the experience, so it's not exactly the same thing, but it's cool to see how the original game inspired the developer. Overall, Buccaneers Shipshape is a pretty fun game. The game lets you play with 3 other friends for some high-sea shenanigans, and honestly, here's where the game shines. The mayhem that happens when playing with more people is incredibly fun. Unfortunately, the game has no online, but I'm sure you can have some online fun using Parsec or something like that. The game will cost you 13 bucks, and while I think the game is a lot of fun and as far as I can tell it's free of any serious bugs, I think it is up to you to decide if you will get this one or not. If you like what you saw here and don't mind the game being so short-lived thanks to a lack of extra modes and content, go for it, I'm sure you will have a good time. If you're looking for a more lasting game, I don't think this is the game for you. Buccaneers Shipshape will be available on Steam tomorrow, and since this game was entirely developed on the OpenBore engine, there's no hope for this one to run on modern consoles, which is a shame if you ask me. But there's a chance the game can come to Android one day, so who knows. And that's it for the review, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to tell me in the comments if you're getting this one. If you reached this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to leave a like because, as you know, it helps a lot. I'll be back this weekend with more beaten up goodies for you, but until then, I hope you all have an awesome week, and remember, keep beaten up.